Hey, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Rants. And here we go. We're going to get right into it here in San Diego County and the Just Us system. Let me just give you a little heads up, though. On the Wealth by Design, and for those of you following on that page and the day trading and crypto and all of that, we're going to be starting back here pretty quick, and we'll have an announcement going out on our daily podcast. We've got our new authority sites almost completed. We'll be sending some notifications out this next week, and we look forward to getting started on the financial wealth design and taking care of some new innovative sites that we've got and helping everybody figure all of the financial stuff out. But let's get into Sunday Rants. So we're talking last week about all of this so-called reforms in the justice system, which I like to refer to as the Just Us system. And the challenge that we're having listening to these elected officials, the district attorney, the city attorney, the city council, the mayor, the board of supervisors, blah, 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 is that for any reform to be meaningful, the reform has to start with the reformers, the people in the justice system that are actually corrupt, right? We talked about the one organization that we were doing a lot of research with, some of the work that they've been doing, and that was the National Registry of Exonerations. And if you went to the website, you were able to see that report that was just issued late last year, where in about 3,000 cases of exonerations, 2,776 to be exact, since 1989, those folks spent more than 24,840 years in prison. All of them were innocent, and this is just one organization. This should outrage everybody. This is one of hundreds of organizations out there doing similar work. 2/3 of these exonerees that were freed were Black, obviously. 9% were Hispanic and Latino. So Black and brown is a target of a racist judicial system that I believe is so far out of control, I don't even know where to begin. And so tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the problems here in San Diego County, because God knows we have enough problems here. And what we're going to be planning is a rally sometime in June downtown. We're going to start at City Hall, and then we're going to walk down and we're going to go over to the Hall of Just Us. They call it the Hall of Justice, but we know that that's bullshit. So we're going to go to the Hall of Just Us, and we're going to be working with a couple of organizations and widening the net to get more people involved in if we're going to have a conversation about reforms, let's start with the reformers. The city attorney for the city of San Diego, she had some ideas. A lot of the doublespeak that I think we're hearing from these politicians talking about, diversion programs and reviews and a commission to do that. No. Look, I've been doing this for over 30 years here in San Diego County, going back into the day when Dale Akiki, Sagan Penn, if everybody knows the history of those cases and the corruption that was going on in the justice system then, and it's only worse now. They have no intention of reforming anything. And until the reform starts with the people in the position where the prosecutorial misconduct, suborning perjury, letting expert witness lie, and covering up exculpatory evidence that would free a defendant, especially a Black or a Latino defendant, all this bullshit is just doublespeak, right? It's political doublespeak. If they had any intention of reforming anything, we would be doing a few different things, and I'm going to talk about what we can do. We're putting together a plan to hold these people accountable publicly and put them on the dime and see where they stand. Let's talk about the thousands and thousands and thousands of rape kits that haven't been processed and the serial rapists. Let's look at Detroit. 20,000 some odd rape kits. When they finally started processing those, over 400 of those 400 people, over 400 people were identified as serial rapists, right? And that means that they committed more than one and have moved on to other jurisdictions. How many rape kits don't we have processed here in San Diego County? Thousands, right? How many people are sitting in jail that are innocent? Probably hundreds, right? And so when we talk about reforming the justice system, we always hear the same nonsense. We always hear the same doublespeak. Well, we're going to form a commission, we're going to form a board, we're going to form something, and we're going to undertake and study it. There's nothing to study. The system is corrupt. The system has been corrupt, and it's worse now than it's been in any time in history. And take from police abuse, from bad cops that do bad things, and then people cover that up. And then you have some defendant looking at 20 to life because evidence was planted on the defendant. You know, this is the kind of stuff that's going on, and we need to just put more light on what's really going on behind the scenes. And when we hear these politicians talking about reforms, the first thing that should perk your ears up is they have no intention of reforming anything. I remember after the Sagan Penn trial, when the jury rendered that verdict in, I think it was July of 1987, the jury acquitted Sagan Penn. And if you read the case, you'll see how outrageous it really was. Not only from police misconduct, but prosecutorial misconduct, the misconduct of the judges in that case. All of it was bad. And when we look at race relations, nobody has confidence in our system right now to do anything except not reform, not change. You have a system that actually refuses to be reformed. And so they throw these token little gestures in platitudes out about forming this board or this commission, when the truth is they have no intention of real reform. If they were talking about real reform, I've got some ideas, and we're going to start widening the conversation, and we're going to start including more people in the community, particularly the minority communities. And let's talk about the misconduct in the jury commissioner's office, where they're purging minorities, black and brown people, from sitting on juries, and the challenges, the preemptory challenges that the prosecutor makes to strike somebody off of the jury because you have an African American defendant or a brown Hispanic defendant facing a drug charge, probably not accurate. And they strike those jurors off of the jury solely based on race. I mean, that's obvious. And so if we're going to talk about real reforms and talk about a system that we can have some confidence in, we've got to have a different way of looking at this whole problem. And part of the problem, a good part of the problem, are the people running the system, not the people that are working, not the people that are getting caught up in it, the people that are running it, because they don't want it to be reformed. And that's the truth. And that's a brutal truth that we're going to start talking about. And we're going to start increasing the conversation, and we're going to start taking action to do something more than listening to a bunch of politicians that doublespeak. They have no intention of reforming anything. If they did, it would have already been done. They've talked about this in San Diego County for decades, and the problem has gotten worse. It's not getting better. And so what we need to do is we need to rethink this entire process from A to Z, and we need to look at what's really going on at the city attorney's office in San Diego, the district attorney's office for the county of San Diego, and the prosecutors that are driving and stacking charges and covering up and suborning perjury and the misconduct and prosecutorial misconduct that's going on, the jury strikes, all of this stacks the odds against you, particularly if you're African American or Hispanic. your chances of getting a fair trial, you have a better chance of winning the lotto tonight than you have of getting a fair trial in San Diego County. The system is racist, it's systemic, and it's a problem that nobody's really talking about where the problem starts. And the problem starts with the people that are running this damn thing and running it into the ground. And what do you do if you're a defendant? You're going to depend on a public defender? Good luck. I'd rather have a package of bubble gum representing me than taking my chances on that. So let's talk about some real reforms. If we were going to have real reforms, we're going to call on the county district attorney and the city attorney for San Diego to do a look back, a post-conviction integrity unit, independent from either one of those offices, sort of like the office of an independent counsel. They have grand jury power and they have subpoena power. And let's look back 5 years at all the convictions in San Diego County, particularly those dealing with minorities. And let's review every one of them. Let's review all of the complaints for misconduct and the allegations of misconduct. And let's have that office start doing that review and investigation. That's reform number one. So if you're serious about reform and you have nothing to hide, then you should have no problem as a county district attorney or as a city attorney for San Diego to have an office of an independent counsel, the equivalent of an independent counsel, a post-conviction integrity unit to review every case for the last 5 years. So that's item one. Item two, the county district attorney has the power to impanel a grand jury made up of citizens, right? Grand juries are supposed to be made up of all of the citizens. And let's start making sure that that process is fairly representative of all of our minority communities, because these are the people where most of this misconduct, you don't have people planting evidence on suspects in La Jolla, right? It's usually Barrio Logan. That's where I grew up. And usually people that can't defend themselves or afford to be able to be defended. And so let's look at all of that through the lens of a grand jury, a sitting grand jury, a permanent impaneled grand jury, not a commission, not some board politically appointed by some double-speaking politician. Let's have a grand jury impaneled that is a standing grand jury that is only charged with the responsibility of looking at police misconduct, investigator misconduct, expert witness misconduct, and prosecutorial misconduct. And while we're at it, let's start. Another thing that we can do is take away the absolute immunity of prosecutors when they engage in misconduct. There's no consequence for them. When we start charging them with crimes and we start holding them accountable, and the people that are running this just us system, maybe the citizens will start having a little faith that the system is a little bit more fair, because right now the system is bullshit. It's not fair. And it's particularly not fair if you're African American, Hispanic, Asian, or anything non-white. It's not fair. And for all of those of my white friends that get their panties in a knot about this, I've looked at this for over 10 months since last year. And I've been involved in this just us reform system for at least more than 3 decades. So I can tell you, San Diego County has a systemic problem. And the problem are the people running the system. And the system is screwed up. And if you don't think so, just ask any defendant that has been freed and the circumstances of them getting freed. It was finally people like the California Innocence Project and other organizations that actually took the case and actually were able to prove that the prosecutor was lying, that the prosecutor was hiding exculpatory evidence that would have proven that the defendant had nothing to do with the crime, and particularly the drug crimes, right? Your chances of getting a fair trial, if you're a minority in San Diego County on a drug crime, good luck. You have more chance of winning the lotto tonight than you have getting a fair trial. Another thing that we can do about reforms, besides putting a standing grand jury in place, is we can start asking the politicians that are elected to city council, the office of mayor, and all the municipalities around San Diego County, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Poway, all these places, El Cajon, La Mesa, well, there's a joke. All of these cities have elected officials, right? So let's start asking them to start supporting these kinds of reforms, not the reforms that the district attorney and city attorney are talking about, because they're not going to reform anything. We want reforms where somebody actually comes in and investigates their office for their bad conduct. You hold citizens accountable to the laws that you enforce, and you won't even hold your own people to that same standard. So it's no wonder nobody has any faith in the just us system, because it's just us and screw you, screw everybody else. And it's all about how many convictions can we get and how much more federal grant money can we get to fight the war on drugs, which is bullshit. You have no intention of fighting the war on drugs, because it's all about militarizing the police. And it's all about everything that you can do to get more convictions, to get more money. Just follow the money. That'll tell you where part of the problem is. What we have is we have a system that's been broken for a long time, and it's collapsing. Go to my page at sundayrants.com and look at the reports. These studies were just recently done and released, and it will tell you how bad the system really is. I didn't do the studies. These other organizations did the studies, and they point to the failure of the jury system. They point to the failure of the prosecutor. They point to the failure of the city attorney. They point to the failure of all the people that are running this system into the ground. And what are all these people talking about? They're talking about putting together a commission, a citizens group. You know what? They're not going to do anything until we hold them accountable. And we can't hold them accountable until we can see everything. And we want to see all of the reports. We want to see all of the convictions. We want to have some confidence that when you put on a badge and a gun, or you take an oath to uphold the law and you're prosecuting some defendant, that you're actually going to play by the rules that you hold us accountable to. Because right now we have less than zero confidence that you're capable of doing that. If you were serious about reforms, you'd have no problem with having somebody come in independent of your office and independent of any political overtones or influence, and you'd have the ability to open up the files and let them review everything, including a grand jury review. The fact that when you have police misconduct, who investigates the police? The police. When you have prosecutorial misconduct, who investigates the prosecutor? The prosecutor's office. You know, this is like having an arsonist investigate the fire, right? What do you think they're going to find? Nothing. They're not going to find nothing, because they're worried about the settlements. They're worried about the exposure. They're worried about the corruption that's already going on in their offices. And they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to tell the minority communities. They don't want to tell anybody about what's really going on. If they were serious, this is what we would be talking about. The next thing on the reform list is the office of jury commissioner. You know, you might be surprised, I wasn't, that this particular very important position is not an elected official. It's not like the county tax assessor, the county district attorney. No. Don't get confused. No, the office of the jury commissioner, that person is appointed by who? By a panel of judges who are elected, and they get to pick who the jury commissioner is. What we need, if we're serious about reforms, is we need the office of the jury commissioner to be elected at large in a regular election, and we need to change the Constitution to prevent judges or anybody else in the just us system from appointing a jury commissioner. And if you want to talk about jury tampering, that's where it's really going on. The purging of the jury pool of minorities is obscene how bad this is getting. And it's getting worse. So we don't get a jury of our peers. We get a watered down version of selection and the purging of the jury pool so that we get just the right mix and just the right kind of jurors that we need to get our conviction. Until that happens, what I'm calling for, look, let me just be blunt. And this might sound radical, and I really don't care. But here's where it's at. You take the step of jury nullification and the history, and I was involved in that movement back in the day, and I can tell you that a lot of the cases that we were fighting was about this war on drugs that started back then, and how these laws were being abused, particularly aimed at the minority. So this is not my first rodeo. I've been in this fight for over 3 decades. And when this whole war on drugs started, we saw the problems that were going on. And we educated jurors that if you don't agree with the law or how it's being applied or who it's being applied to, you don't have to uphold it. The judge can't make you vote guilty. He can't direct your verdict. And you don't have to tell anybody. Just say not guilty, because I'm going to tell you something. I don't have any confidence in all the manipulation that's going on that we don't know about. How many people are still sitting in jail that we don't know about? There's almost 3,000 just in one organization that we do know about. How many more do we not know about? How many bullshit trials have gone on? How many plea agreements do we not know about because of the misconduct in the prosecutor's office? The real criminals work in the justice system, suborning perjury and manufacturing evidence or planting evidence against a defendant that has no hope in the world of ever getting anything close to a fair trial or a jury of their peers. So spare me the bullshit about the reforms, and spare me the bullshit about diversion programs until you're willing to open up the files and have your own office under the scrutiny and the spotlight of scrutiny. You don't have any credibility to suggest anything about reforming the justice system. The justice system is corrupt. It's corrupt with people. The system is set up to work for everybody. Justice is supposed to be blind, not stupid. And people are not stupid. We've had enough of this bullshit, and we've had enough of this racist attitudes that permeate throughout the entire system. And don't get me started on the prison system, because that's even worse. The privatization of the prison reforms, and all of that, I'll have plenty to say. Every day we put something new up on the website at sundayrants.com. And what you need to do is you need to get educated about how corrupt it really is. Here in San Diego County, we're reaching out already. We're trying to network other coalitions, other organizations, other groups in the minority communities. Everybody should be involved in this conversation, because right now we have a system that has failed, and it's failing. It's collapsed. It doesn't work. And nobody has any confidence that any defendant can get a fair trial. And that is fundamental. And until we fix that, and until we have that confidence from the prosecutor's office and from the city attorney's office and from the office of all these elected pinheads that run everything, we have no obligation to uphold any law. So get on a jury and then exercise your power to nullify the law as it's being applied to who it's being applied to, because you don't know everything, and they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you the whole truth. They're not going to show you all of the stuff that they're hiding. And if you don't have confidence in the prosecutor, and I don't, then how can you have any confidence that anything that they're bringing before the jury is true or accurate? You don't. And so that's enough reasonable doubt for me to say no, not guilty. Until you clean your own house, you have no right, you have no power to try to enforce the law on a community that demands reform and a system that refuses to be reformed. And that's the bottom line. And that's where we have to start this conversation. Let them appoint all the people that they want. These are all political appointments, right? So what do you think they're going to come up with? Oh, it's just like the arsonist investigating the fire. Oh, it looked like an accident. I guess that poor defendant fell up the staircase 3 levels. I don't know what happened. He defied the law of gravity. This is bullshit. It's all bullshit, and we know it's bullshit. So until we hold them accountable, the people that we elect at large, and until we can have confidence that the system has gotten rid of all of the racists, all of the corruption, all of the bullshit, no, we don't have any obligation to uphold any law when we're sitting on a jury. The jury is the final check against this tyranny. The jury is the final check whether or not we incarcerate. What do you think those jurors in those 3,000 cases are thinking today that convicted those people? What do you think they're thinking? How tragic is that? And that's only one of hundreds of organizations. My God, are you serious? When people tell me these are just isolated cases, that's bullshit. It's not isolated, it's systemic. This is a problem. And it's a big problem that nobody is having a conversation about because we're talking about the wrong thing. We should be talking about the criminals that work in the justice system. These people that are racist, these people that plant evidence, these people that lie. And until we fix that, just shut the fuck up. You have nothing to say that anybody wants to listen to because you have no credibility. Clean your own house first. And until the people that put these people in power decide that we're going to take the power back that we own to be governed by people that aren't corrupt, that run the justice system, nothing's going to change. God help anybody that gets caught up in this system and doesn't have the money or the ability or the resources to hire a good firm to defend them. You have no chance of getting a fair trial, period, especially if you're African American or Hispanic. You have no chance of getting a fair trial, not in a system this corrupt and this broken. And until we have that conversation and until we get all the racists out of the organizations that run this system, nothing will change. And it's pathetic. It's sad. And it's sad. I don't know what you tell somebody doing 20 to life for drugs that were planted on them and they got convicted. I don't know how you give them back that time that they spent in jail. I don't know how you put the family back together that they ripped apart. I don't know how you fix that. However big the check is, it's not big enough. You can't give somebody back their life that you stole from them because your system is corrupt. That's not the America I want to have any part of, period. And until we fix that, and until you shut up and clean your own house, we have no obligation sitting on a jury to uphold any law, particularly the way that you run this system. So that's all I've got to say tonight, this week on Sunday Rants. Get on my website, share it. We're going to have thousands and thousands of people. I'm telling you, people are fed up. We're all fed up. And we're going to start now having a different conversation and a different narrative. We're going to put the focus on the prosecutors. We're going to put the focus on the investigators. We're going to put the focus on the court and the judges and the jury commissioner. Those are the people manipulating the system and stacking the odds against any minority defendant that has any hope in the world of ever having anything close to a fair trial. Join me every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Sunday Rants, because we are going to have a voice, and we're going to make your voice and everybody else's voice heard. And whatever you have, send me an email, james@sundayrants.com. Go to my website, join my Facebook page, share this with everybody. We have got to let people know where the problems really are. And that's where we have to point the light. The best disinfectant is light, right? And then all the cockroaches run, right? When you flip on the light. Well, let's just turn on the light to the office of the district attorney and all the prosecutors, the office of the city attorney, and let's impanel a sitting grand jury, and let's have a post-conviction integrity unit that has grand jury and subpoena power. Let's start there. And then maybe we'll take you serious that you're actually serious about reforms. Because I can tell you for the last 3.5 decades, you haven't reformed a damn thing. And it's worse now than it's ever been. All right. Join me every Sunday, 6 p.m., Sunday Rants. Have an awesome day. Take care.